Hello, Mary.
Hello, Dr. Natalie.
How
How
are
are
you?
you?
I'm so sorry to hear about your husband. I'm sure it's like mixed emotions, you know?
I toggle back and forth on this
Yeah.
because I went through sort of the rage stage. Who has a caregiver who doesn't call 911 when someone falls and throws up? I'm like, he's on the floor. You can't get him up. In my neighborhood, it's a 911.
Yeah, no, so you did call 911.
Well, I told her to call 911. I was out. It
No.
was a domino. My husband could perform with cues and with my one on one all activities of daily living. He fed himself, he dressed himself, he toileted, he walked, he talked. He was just a joy, an absolute joy. I called him the new and improved Jim.
From the dementia, like the dementia made him more joy?
I think it made both of us more joy as time went on because he became a new person. He was back in time, I think. He was just so aware and appreciative of people when he would meet. We had an interesting year, and he was briefly in assisted living memory care because we had the pandemic meltdown crash and burn. The respite had to happen, and I found a great place within 10 minutes, and I was able to be there every day. I could get some help, and he could get some help, and we had a bad situation at home. There was all sorts of things, but they adored him. He's totally verbal and quick and funny. So he would come up and he would kiss their hand. He would say, "You look beautiful today. Let me kiss your hand."
And so was this a different demeanor and personality from how he was before the dementia?
Yes.
And we've talked before. You've been a Careplacer for quite a long time. And there was a time when things were, even when the dementia was there, things were not so great. Can you talk about what was the transition from kind of arguing all the time and being frustrated to now, like you said, he was an absolute joy?
Well, the transition for me was, and I said this in my last interview, once I did the care course and once I looked the videos, I really knew who I had to be with him. That was the most important thing. They're freaking mirrors. What you give is what you get back. If you're pushing them or annoying them, the answer is always yes, but it's tomorrow or it's soon. Or do you want to have fries with that? You want to go home? What should we pack? And then that's over. Well, maybe we could sleep here. Oh, yeah, we could sleep here. Do they have a bed here? Yes, there's a bed here.
Oh my gosh, I love this. Like the people listening right now, what you just said is so incredibly helpful. Just avoiding the no, avoiding the negative, just kind of saying, oh, what should we pack? You're literally joining his world. So he sees you as somebody who wants to help and on his team versus trying to rationalize away why he is already home. That is so brilliant, Mary.
I learned it from you.
But it's one thing to hear something. It's an entirely different thing. And I know you know this, to actually apply it in the moment when it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do?
We lived in sin. We lived in common law. We married, but 53 years, there's a lot of buttons and triggers that can be pushed. So sometimes I don't get it right because he's managed to say that one thing that sends me off into a different place. But with dementia, it's really great. You can just walk out of the room, go and walk back and do the right thing.
That's amazing.
The kind thing.
Now, did you have a hard time in the beginning? It wasn't always joy. There was a lot of frustration, argument, all that happening.
He had an infection, and so he really needed to be protected. And there were so many things I had to do. That was really rough.
And how did you stay in a place of joy? Because even if he started to become more pleasant as the disease progressed, you were still doing so much for him.
Dr. Natalie, I believe this is probably bizarre, but I thought he was getting better. That's how good we were doing.
That's amazing.
That's how joyful every day was. That's how good it was. If I were a religious person, I would say I was blessed. We were both very lucky. The couple months that he spent in memory care were really great for me. I've been working for a long time on getting help, asking for help, saying yes to people who offer help. This is huge for me.
I just want to make a comment. There's going to be people hearing well, I don't feel blessed or I don't feel lucky. But I want to point out, it's not just being blessed or being lucky. You actually had to be open to accepting help, open to putting your husband in respite, open to so many different, and open to an entirely new way of thinking. So what would you say are the things you actually did to help bring about the luck and the blessing and help bring around the joy? Because I know you've done things. Like, how did you get to the point where you were somebody who would accept help or even ask for help?
Well, I think I had to understand why I couldn't do that. I wrote down all the reasons. Sort of a happy-go-lucky person. So if somebody would say, how you doing? I'd say, oh, real good. Everything's fine. And then I think there's shame, there's embarrassment. So I want to protect him from people seeing him differently than who he is. Pride, there's pride. I want people to think I'm doing a good job and that I can do it. And that's fear of rejection. What if they say no? I think that sort of false face projecting hope, this is really not helpful. You do need help.
How did you go from the shame and the fear, rejection? How do you go from all of those thoughts, which I know so many Trailblazers experience, to, you know what? I just need to be okay with getting help.
I'm not sure. I just realized that it certainly wasn't helping me and probably wasn't helping him. And I'm like, why can't I do this? And then I started I call it autocorrect, when I would say, oh, everything's great. And so I would just start asking for people. There was a woman in my building who was a gerontological nurse.
Oh, nice.
And I had to give him eczema shots, Dupixent. This would stress both of us out. And I called her and I said, Donna, could you just come up and help me give this shot up? And she showed me this really cool thing. And I told Jim I was going to do it. She's rubbing his shoulder and talking to him. And I gave him the shot. He said he never felt it. And she explained to me that people can only have sort of one sensory experience. And he's focused on her voice and that shoulder rubbing. And I gave the shot. He was like, cool, that was good. And so then I learned this other thing about it's not just mental diversion, but there's also sensory diversion that you can use. So she taught me that. And thank God I asked her for that. I was able to call her when Jim fell a couple weeks ago. And I knew after this that he didn't want to get back up again. He told me. He said, I'm out of here. He said worse things, but basically he said, I'm leaving on a jet plane. I'm like, oh, I knew that. He was 90 and a half. He was still healthy, walking. But when he couldn't go to the bathroom by himself, he was not having it.
It shows you a window into his own suffering and experience and how unpleasant it was for him.
Yes.
And a lot of people with dementia aren't able to communicate that. They might not have the ability to speak so clearly or to explain what's going on inside, but your husband did. And I imagine there's lots of people who kind of have that experience, but aren't able to articulate it.
I knew it, and I knew I had to honor that. We had advance directives and everything else, but this was really not a situation where his leg was in great pain and he couldn't move it. On Tuesday, we were out to lunch. On Wednesday, he's like, I can't step on my leg. On Thursday, he fell. And Friday, he just stopped getting up. And the next Friday, he was dead. Gone.
Oh, man.
And so that's how quick that was. But because I had already asked for help, it just swarmed me. I called my neighbor who was the nurse and I said, I think I need hospice. I said, I think Jim's checking out. And she came up and she said, you're right. Get that. And I got that. Again, insist with the doctors. They're like, oh, Jim's fine. He's like the miracle man. Let's give him some antibiotics. I said, fine. Yes, I'll take the antibiotics and I want hospice right now. And they came and thank God. But she was there. I needed to reposition him. So all of a sudden, 3 neighbors show up and help get that done. And sometimes you're not in thinking mode because you're not out there reaching out for help because you're in the moment. You're doing the things and you want to be with your loved one. You want to do these things or help. And my brother happened to call me on Saturday and he said, how you doing? I said, I don't think Jim's doing very well. Well, the next thing you know, I got 4 sisters here. They just showed up and 2 of them are nurses. I think neighbors, because I had let them in, they came in.
Can you share a couple of maybe key tips for Careblazers and caregivers out there who have a lot of thoughts and struggle asking for help, and maybe they're not very close with their neighbors or they don't even have close family? Like, what would you say to them? Like, what are some beginning steps to open themselves up for help?
My neighbors are physically close, but we don't really know each other. They were awesome. Because Jim would have been in the halls, they might have passed him. And one woman, Wendy, has a seeing eye dog. She's like, I'm coming. She said, you need to call me anytime. Well, of course, I'm not going to do that. Then we would make arrangements to meet in the hallway. We would do all these. They were pet visits. Make a list of your friends with pets. Make a list of your neighbors with pets. Figure out when they walk their dogs and get your loved one out there so he can experience that. And that's how you sort of open up those possibilities.
I love this so much, Mary, because what you're saying essentially is don't prejudge people and their willingness to help.
No.
You never know, that neighbor that maybe you've never really talked to or had a relationship with might be willing and able to do something that could be helpful to you.
Yes, just a smile, a friendly greeting for your loved one, when they're out. Well, I think Jim felt really great about himself, except physically he was getting run down. The hospice nurse said, my God, he can't be 90. And his skin is so beautiful. I'm like, yeah, well, he is 90 and a half. And yes, he's got great genes, but people didn't necessarily think of him like that. And I think this with people with dementia who have US, do they know? I think they do. Not all the time, but they have these kind of toggles back and forth. He would feel really bad about himself. I'm stupid. Something would happen that he couldn't do. And I used to try to eliminate all those barriers. Can openers, throw them out. Knobs on the thing, throw it out. Get rid of anything that would, pictures on the wall, gone. It's like anything that would cause confusion or disruption, that was while he was in memory care. I'm like, okay, those books out.
Did you notice any change when you removed all those things?
Yes. It's like amazing. So I have my 3 goals: hydrate, nutrate, eliminate all obstacles to his success. Make sure he's getting good meals a day plus snacks, hydrate, and keep a routine and a schedule so he knows where he is and what he's going to do. And guess what? He didn't want to go home at sundown most days.
That's amazing. So he was asking to go home previously. And once you've made all these changes, he stopped asking.
Yes.
Because he felt more comfortable where he was.
He would start, he'd say, go home. And I would say, yes, why don't we get ready? And we could go. Do you want to go now? You want to go in the morning? What do you want to bring? He always used to talk about Christmas. He was late for his mother. I don't know. Something back there. Christmas is a trigger, We'd just sit there and we'd get to yes. And he was comfortable. And so we went from a couple years of intense home seeking or getting to some normalcy. If it happened on a day, it was a 5-minute event.
Wow. That's huge. And it sounds like eliminating a lot of anything that caused him confusion or distress, just getting rid of it helped.
And having a routine and a schedule, that's what I learned because I went every day to memory care. I went every day and I noticed breakfast is when you get up, but they don't get you up for breakfast. They honor if he's sleeping, when he gets up, his breakfast is given to him, but
love it.
Don't wake them up for breakfast.
Yes. So it's still a routine. It's just not held to a time.
To a time.
Yeah.
And then, lunch is at a time, but if you don't eat it, it's there for you.
Yes.
There's snacks around, healthy ones, oranges and bananas and apples and all the things he likes. And dinner is at a certain time. But if you're not there, it's there for you when you're ready for it. But
now, Mary, was he hesitant to go there?
Well, this was an emergency situation.
Okay.
I needed to get him safely bedded down. We went down for the assessment and he's like, why are we here? And I said, well, I just want to check it out. And he was totally resistant. And we go into a little room, it's like one of the bedrooms and sit down and the nurse is going to come in. and he is angry and frantic and doesn't want to be there. And so the woman who does sales, Tanya, comes in, who's the nurse, and sits down and is verbally sparring with her. And they said, Mary, why don't you come with us? We're going to show you the other place. I come back 20 minutes later. He's kissing her hand. He's like telling her how much he likes her. You got a great place here. We'll come back for lunch.
That's what he said. We'll come back for lunch. I love it. That's great.
And a week or two later, we came back for lunch and they said, now you leave. And they took over.
Wow.
And it was a little rough. It was rough on me because they said, well, you probably shouldn't come for a week or two. And I couldn't sleep. I'm throwing up. He can't sleep without me. And there were a couple, I know, anxious moments for them because, he's not like some of the other folks in there who can't walk, or he can walk and talk and he can rip the blinds off and do this. He just can't find the bathroom without help. He adjusted better. At week 2, I wrote them a letter and said, okay, he's coming home in 30 days. I'm going to take him out. And they're like, chill. You can come. So then I began every day being there. Pretty much I'd arrive after breakfast and stay until close to dinner time. And what did I find out? They're in there. They're there. And you think they can't do the things they used to do, but maybe they can do something that they did a really long time ago. They had a pool table on the 3rd floor. We walked by it and I said, oh, look at that pool table. And they got a TV in here. And he said, well, I play pool. I never knew he played pool.
Oh my God, 53 years together and you never knew that.
Almost every day we'd go up there, play pool. The nurse and aides, they're like, oh, look at this guy. He's really cool.
This is amazing. If I had to put a theme to our discussion today, it would be throw out everything you think you know, or throw out everything you believe in terms of like, he won't sleep if I'm not there. He's not going to adjust to the care facility, or even there's no way I can ask for help. My pride, my fear. You overcame so many previous thoughts and beliefs to get to this place and to find all this joy. That's truly amazing. But I think that's what's happening here.
I wasn't sure it was going to be possible to bring him home, but that was always my goal. And I had another goal, which is we're making it to 90, buddy. I'm 75, but that was kind of my goal for him. I'm not sure it was his goal for him, but it was my goal for him. Somehow the skies opened up and everything fell into place. And I brought him home for a weekend because a friend of ours came in from Ukraine, from Kiev. And I said, oh, you have to be here for Olga and we're going to have a brunch. And so I brought him home for the weekend and he never went back.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It was great while he was there for him and for me, and I could get things done. But as soon as I could have him back.
How has it been with him being gone? Because it hasn't been very long. What's it been? Maybe a week or two?
Yeah. This is my first day solo. My last sister left yesterday and I started Tai Chi last night. My doctor said, work on balance. The first week I was in the anger and a lot of anger at myself for going out that night, anger at the caregiver for not calling 911. Wouldn't have changed anything, but anger at the doctor for giving me bullshit about needing hospice, anger, never at him, but just at everything. Yeah. And as I'm learning, that is a part of grief. And then when anger at my stepdaughter, his daughter, for not coming. And then she wanted to come this day. I said, he won't be there that day. Then she wanted to come see me that day. And I said, I won't be there that day. That's how upset I was. Yeah. But the day that she did come was the right day. It was the day that the funeral home called and said, his ashes are ready. And I got an urn for her. And we went together and I let her sign the papers with me. And, all that anger, you just have to release it. And so I'm like, maybe that's how things are. So I'm not angry anymore. As I told my doctor, I said, I'm sad, but I'm not depressed. This is like sad.
Which is totally normal after somebody passes away that you love.
Yeah. My friends come up. My fellow caregiver here, who's also a care blazer. Her husband's 85th birthday was Sunday, and there was a big party, and sort of our whole group got together, and there must have been 100 people there, and we had an Irish singer, and she does an amazing job too. I found you and I sent you to her. We're able to do this for our loved ones at home. My neighbors say, how do you do this? And I said, number one, love. If you really love someone, you want to do this. You have to know what it is. And you're right. Throw out whatever, let it go. I used to get upset because he'd want to work in the kitchen. So I didn't yet have things going in my mind that he needs to feel useful, productive. This wasn't even in my frame of reference.
What made you realize that or get that insight?
Watching the videos.
Yeah.
And then you're like, let it go.
Yeah.
Break dishes, throw the food on who cares? And then I would say, can you do those dishes or put this stuff away? Go ahead, put it in the wrong place. Who cares? Let's go shopping. Put all that crap in my cart. I'll get it out before we go through checkout. Once you just sort of let all that stuff, it just doesn't matter.
Going with the flow versus resisting it all.
Yeah. And with my husband, for him, he had lost all wayfinding. Where am I supposed to be? Where am I? And that was his biggest fear. Sometimes he would wake up at night and I wouldn't wake up and he'd be back in the hallway. He says, oh my God, you found me. He said, I was in this forest and there were all these other people. Oh, how did you find me? And I said, I always know where you are. I have a locator beacon on you.
I love that.
And you would realize you'd want to go to the bathroom and you'd open the closet door and I would say, use the other one. It's better,
But even that is so beautiful, Mary. Use the other one. You didn't say that's not the bathroom. Going back and tying back to what you said in the beginning, you try to avoid the negative stuff. And you're like, oh, try this door.
These things, it's a bed, try this bed. The owners won't be coming home tonight. I think they went to Florida. We're good here. But he really needed one-on-one, which you can't get in a memory care facility. It's just not possible. As much as they might like him, it's not on offer. And he needed to come home and I needed him back here. But I realized I was very much his grounding mechanism.
Yours is home base, his safety place.
This is it. If you're here, that's where I'm supposed to be. I'm okay. You'll figure it out. I don't know what it is, but definitely that was it. Although sometimes he thought I was his mother and sometimes he thought I was his brother. And I could actually track that back to if I was telling him that he should do something, I'm mom. If I was saying, let's go play this, brother, both of whom have been dead for a long time. So,
but the other thing I want to say here too, because some Trailblazers listening might say, my loved one doesn't even want to see me, or they don't like me, or they don't want to be around me. I think the way that you handle everyday interactions to make them more positive, to not highlight that he's confused or getting things wrong, that makes it more likely that he sees you as a home base, his grounding mechanism. And I think you made a beautiful relationship with him for that to happen.
I don't want anyone to get the idea that he knew who I was in the here and now. He would often say to me, oh my God, you're Mary Harris. I haven't seen you in years. Mm-hmm. And the fact that I've been his wife for 50 years, no, that was not there.
But he always had for the most part, a pleasant association with you.
Always. He adored me. I adored him.
Yeah. And what I want to make the point is for people who are like, well, I don't have that relationship. I think a lot of it is how you interact with him, how you don't highlight his issues, how you don't make it a big deal, how you don't say, we can't go home. We're already home. You just like roll with it. I think if I could highlight the importance of anything, it's that approach and demeanor is amazing.
Because I used to say, we can't go home or we are home.
And that probably didn't go well.
Went awful.
Right.
Who are you?
Right.
They'd throw me out. I'd be out on the balcony and then I'd come in as did that woman leave? Yeah, she's gone. I threw her off the balcony. I'm the new woman. It's like all the clouds part when you just jump into their world and let them have their world. I don't know. I don't think it's that easy, but it is easy. You have to give up what you thought, and you even have to give up what you thought they couldn't do. This is really important. They can do so much more than whatever you're thinking. He's not playing ice hockey anymore, but he's playing pool. I'm like, what's up with that? Things change. And there's all this stuff going on with them. They're just still really real people. I feel so bad because in the memory care, there were some folks who had aphasia where they can't talk. And yet, that their personality is there, and there's so much there. Everything is a mess around them, but their personality is just still so present. And I was like, oh my God, that would be torture to not be able to communicate and do that. So I was very lucky, really lucky.
Well, I think it's your attitude and perspective on everything that brings about that luck, for sure. I'm so honored truly to have you as part of this Careblazer family. I know you've been like with us for years, and I just so appreciate you and everything you've shared here, because I think it's going to be so incredibly helpful for other people to hear. So thank you for being such an amazing example. And we're sending you so much love as you enter another chapter of life.
But I'll still be here.
You will always be a part of our Careblazer family.
And several of us in the Zoom lost our loved ones in the same week or 2 weeks.
In the Careblazer support groups?
Yeah, in the spouse support group, Mike and Rose and me all. I mean, I'm not leaving.
You're welcome to stay as long as
and because this is a process, I just invited someone else to join. They need this space.
Yeah, you're welcome to use it for as long as it's helpful for you, for sure.
What I would really like to do is to be able to pay for other people to take the care course. I'm referring people all the time because I see that they really need it and that they could be helped. It is life-changing in this world, really. They tell you what that disease is. They don't tell you how to interact with that person. And that's the whole game. I know it in my brain. If you love or care for the person, your person, there can be joy, and a lot of it. I just know that.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for showing us all that it can be done, for being like an example of that in the world. And again, like Mary, I love having you as part of this Careblazer group.
Well, I love having you and found you. I'm like, oh my God.
Thank you so much, Mary.
Thank you, Dr. Natalie. I love you.
I love you. Careblazer, I hope that was incredibly helpful for you and that you were able to take away the amazing nuggets she shared. If you'd like to join her and other amazing Careblazers inside of my care course, there is a link in the description to this video where you can sign up for a free training on how to care for a loved one with dementia without the overwhelm. And in that training, I share more information and details on the care course. It's the only way to get invited inside of the program. You can do that right now for free in the link in the description.